So I've had a little bit of fun with this car recently, guys. Don't want to be putting out the same kind of content 2 days in a row, but I just couldn't let this one slip. The Shelby Daytona has been absolutely ridiculous. Playing about with this thing, trying to get some form of tune out of the grip of this. It's been a hell of a lot of fun, and this obviously comes off the back of the latest live weekly events. So apologies if it's the same style of video 2 days in a row, but it's actually kind of different internally as I start to crack open how to make the Daytona handle a little bit better. What we're going to do is head on over to the other sprint here, the Pacific Ride, which of course came with the live weekly event. Minimum RPO 500, 1960 to 1969 is the year build. We've got some ridiculous times on the board once again. No surprise, the same culprits: GR Pacuvias, Ball and World, Jason 57, Christoph Estevez, with some insane times up on that board. Just what's that, 3 or 4 seconds between them? My only time I've got on the board, 2 minutes 59 in the Jaguar E-Type. So there's a hell of a lot of room for improvement, but like we already know that this thing is insane to get a tune out of is the Daytona. Other guys up in the grid here, Vince, Andy, still in race in the Shelby Daytona. They're managing to get some form of a tune out of this. And I've had so much fun playing about with this car. It's not a car I've used in game. I bought it for the redo. Like you guys already know, you voted for the Daytona. And I'm going to use it to my heart's content here. We're going to do the second race, much like we did yesterday, with managing to control it with no traction control. Turns out I have got traction control in this race. I thought I turned it off. If I do, it's very minimal. Basically what I'm trying to do here is try to get a tune out of this thing as much as possible. At this point, I believe I've got full traction control on. I maybe made a bit of an error coming into this one. I thought I turned it off. But trying to set a couple of times on the board to improve with the Shelby Daytona. Do we have to have full traction control applied to this car to be able to make it handle? Now, handle's still going to be a bit of a stretch. It's still going to be leery, it's still going to be lively. But coming into some of the early corners we've got here, we can see with a bit of increased traction control, it is handling a lot better, but it's going to step out on us relatively quickly. In through the very early sections here, we can see that we can get the power down a lot better. In through some of these tight corners, we can be a bit more aggressive with the throttle application. And then we come through these faster sections. It's a lot more grounded onto the track. We're not having to feather the throttle quite as much. Up into the next few sections here, we can be more ambitious. Coming out of the corner, straight back onto the throttle. There was not a hope in hell previously that we could apply this level of throttle this quickly in the Daytona. Up into the little chicane that we've essentially got here, trying to cut the track and save as much time as possible. With 100% traction control at this point, I remember where I am in the recording now, this has got 100% traction control applied. We can hammer through this course as quickly and aggressively as we possibly dare. Up through these sections, backing off slightly, trying to keep the back end under control. Big left-hander here, fully committing to it, but the back end still getting quite unstable. It feels like we're putting a good time on the board. In through the big right-hander here, we can see that the traction control really kicking in, and we're getting a good time out of the Shelby. Now, it goes against everything I believe in when we come into these races. 1960s Shelby Daytona didn't even know what traction control, didn't know what stability control was. We shouldn't be able to apply it to these cars, but the fact of the matter is we can. And we can improve on our lap times ridiculously. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that this is going to handle well. We can see it outbrakes itself, it understeers, it oversteers. It's only going to be natural. This thing's, 900 kilos and 1400 newton meters of, brake horsepower. God, I got confused there. This thing is absolutely bonkers. And it's going to be easy putting on that traction control to get a good lap time on the board. As we're just about to cross the start-finish line here, we can be able to see just how much improvement we can have with 100% traction control applied. Jumping all the way up to 5th place with a 2 minute 38. Still 6 seconds off Christoph Estevez there with the Mark 1 GT40, but we've now set the second fastest time in the Shelby Daytona. So it's only natural that we're going to try and go faster. I don't expect myself to catch Ball and World MGR there. I do think that time is far much out of reach, 8 seconds ahead of where I am. But to be the second fastest in the Daytona, I like it. It's a little feather in the cap. But maybe we've got too much traction control applied. Maybe we don't need 100%. Come over into the menus, into the car setup. We're going to leave that all the same, but that traction control, I'm going to bring it down here to that 50% level. Previously it was 100. Just kind of wanted to capture that before we went in. We don't need to go full hog on the traction control. Drop it down to 50, it's going to get off the line a little bit worse, it's going to have more wheel spin. It's only natural. But coming into some of these faster corners, like we've got as we come downhill, we can play with this thing a little bit more. We can let it slide a bit more and carry more speed in through these early corners. Downhill into the left-hander, swing it round to the right-hander, but more importantly, we can drop it down to first gear, get on that power so much quicker. Already up into third gears, we do come into this very awkward tight right-hander, but we can come back down into first gear, get back onto that throttle and not have to worry about the mass amount of wheel spin that we're going to get off the back of it. Now I know this isn't groundbreaking, it's nothing new, we all know how traction control and how stability control works. But if you are like me, I don't like using it in game. It feels more like you're racing, and it's what we should be doing. We're playing a racing game after all, an arcadey racing game at that, not a sim racing game that some people are somehow still confused by. But I like to have this as realistic as possible, and we shouldn't have ABS or traction control applied to these cars, but for this test we do, and we can see just how ludicrously fast the Shelby Daytona is, coming uphill through the left-hander into the right-hander, swinging it fast, aggressive into the left-hander, right-hand chicane right here, jumping across those curves but instantly getting back onto the power, not worrying about the back end lighting up, spinning away from us. It gives us a different dynamic, and it may take away from the purists of racing, but we've got to test out these theories, just how fast we can go. Having full power applied to this thing, all the upgrades, with the anti-lag turbo, all of the power we could want underneath our feet, and having traction control, this thing has actually been an absolute pleasure to drive. Back into that tight right hander once again, getting onto the power as early as we possibly can, getting the steering straightened up as quickly as we can so the traction control lifts and we can start to progress up through the rev range once again. Back into this section, we want to fully commit now. Once again, power fully applied. We don't want to lift as late as possible onto the brakes, in through the left-hander, drop it down into first gear, even touching on the e-brake to try and get the back end to turn around just a little bit quicker. We know we're going to be a bit reserved coming up through this section, the traction control kicking in, so the back end once again of the Daytona does not want to light up on us. But dropping this down to 50% traction control, it's going to pick up the power a lot earlier, it's going to be more lively coming into some of these corners, and it's actually going to be more easier, more tamer to drive essentially, as we do once again cross off that start finish line. What kind of improvement can we make though? Well, I'm happy to say 4 seconds, over 4 seconds improved, simply by taking that from 100% traction control down to 50% traction control. Now Christoph, an absolutely sensational time on the board there, 2 minutes 32, still just about 2 seconds ahead of the time I have set there. Massive hats off to you, congratulations, much like Jason57, Ballin World MGR and GR Pecurious, with ridiculous times set on the leaderboards. For me, it's probably been one of my most favourite live weekly events that we've had so far. This isn't a car I kind of even wanted to use in game, but it's pushed me to using this. It's why I love the live weekly events. It's why they are the heart and soul of this game. Driving these cars I didn't expect to ever drive, and I've had so much fun playing with this, tuning it, playing about with ABS, no ABS, traction control, no traction control, all the different dynamics that the game does offer. I hope you've enjoyed watching today's video guys. Smash up the like button, subscribe, all the usual good stuff. And stay tuned for more updates on Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown.